doesn't love a chocolate chip brownie?
Well, it's funny you would say that because when it came out, a woman was at the store and I noticed I didn't know the woman. I see she was buying it, and I went up to her. Of course, I had to ask her. I'm like, well, why'd you buy that? And she looked at me like I was the idiot that I was in a sense, and she said, "It's a brownie inside of a chocolate chip cookie." It's kind of like, what's more obvious than that, or
Exactly.
which is what you said, and so. What's wonderful about that product, though, is now because they figured out how to put a layer inside of a chocolate chip cookie, we now have red velvet frosting inside versions. I don't know. We have fudge. We have birthday cake frosting. And they even, if you can believe this, because they own Oreo, they also even put Oreo filling in there, which I can't believe they did that, but it actually did pretty well.
Yeah.
So the whole idea is it led to a platform of the other products. So anyway, that's kind of fun to work on cookies.
Yeah, definitely. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So in approaching some of these situations, there have to be times where you felt maybe apprehensive or fearful, or even creatively blocked. How do you approach times when you come across a block like that because of fear or whatever reason, and how do you move past that?
Yeah, part of it is now because I've done this over 1,000 times. There's less fear than there used to be. That being said, the night before I'm sitting there and I've got a process plan, but I'm thinking I can't think of an Oreo cookie idea. We're going to die an ugly death here when we do this session, right? Oreo cookies have been around for 100 years. Damn, I can't think of anything, right? I might be in that situation, and that's nerve-wracking. That being said, because I've done these processes so much, because I've worked to design the session and get the right triggers and stimuli, and that's important, the right triggers. And I can talk about some of those triggers beside the techniques if you want. And because I've encouraged the company to get cross-functional people, people of different backgrounds, sometimes will involve creative consumers, et cetera, because of all that, there's a part of me that knows it's going to work. Okay. And it does. And somehow at the end of the day, we'll have 200 new Oreo ideas. About 15% of which are really interesting or exciting. So it's a relatively small number, 30, let's say. Of those, we might bring to focus group testing, qualitative testing, maybe 18. Of those, maybe 9, they decide they want to do, cost-benefit analysis on. Of those, they might, quantitatively test 5 or 6. Of those, 2 might make the final cut and, they launch 1. Yeah. So those are the numbers. But to answer your original question, it's because I've done it so much now. I'm scared the night before, but it kind of always works.
Okay, sure. So yeah, you mentioned triggers. What do you mean by triggers, and how do you use those to help with the creative process?
So one of the most fun things that I do is coming up with new processes, right? And how to customize existing processes. So for instance, we were working with a large dairy company. We were inventing new, dairy beverages and products. And so how do you get new ideas? Well, one, we would get menus, for instance, and use those to trigger ideas. One of the more intriguing things, though, was to get menus from actually the turn of the century. Mm-hmm. So these are menus that are over 100 years old. I had discovered that the New York Public Library has a collection of online collection now of over, I believe it's 80,000 menus from the history of the country. Wow. So I go through and I look at those and I pull out, the menu from the 1898 Waldorf Astoria and use that to trigger ideas for dairy beverage. Huh. And so it's fantastic, right? And so I love the opportunity to find new ways to trigger people. Another trigger, for instance, is a technique we invented called patent prompts. Mm-hmm. In the last 15 years or so, the U.S. Patent, Trademark, and Data Office has put all their patents online, and they're searchable by keywords. And so if we're trying to invent a new vacuum cleaner, I might put in the word flow or suction or whatever it is, and it might pull up 1,000 abstracts of outside of a vacuum cleaning, right? It could be airfoils. I mean, it could be car system, whatever it is. I would pull out maybe 100 of those very interesting patents, and use those to trigger ideas where people could transfer the principle to invent a new vacuum cleaner. Mm-hmm. So those are two examples of, quote, inventing new techniques or generating stimuli that'll trigger ideas, again, that are different but relevant to the task we're working on.
Yeah, wow. So in everything that you've done so far, what would you say has been the best advice you've ever received?
Wow. Let's see. Gosh, I think, if I'm going to be truly honest and frank about this, mm-hmm. It might be that my dad had said, he had kind of said to me, because he was an icon in the family, right? He was this creative guy. He said, gee, I'm not sure, that you might be as creative as your brother. And of course that was a wound in the heart, right? And I said, and so that may have been, I don't know if you'd call that advice. That was kind of a side comment that he probably didn't even know he'd said. Yeah. Just offhanded comment, but I took that in a way to heart and said, well, how could I make myself more creative? So I don't know if that was advice. You could call it impetus mm-hmm. for life's work, and it rang true to me to try to figure out how to help myself and how to help others be more creative. So if we're overly Freudian about this, I guess we're there. But that, I don't know if you'd call that advice or a moment in time that encouraged me to pursue my life's work.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So because of that and the fact that you have made yourself this absolutely dynamic, creative individual, apart from some of the things you did with studying psychology and a few other things, are there books that you read or courses you took or just exercises you did that helped make you more creative or creatively minded? One of the things that I can feel good about myself is I give myself the ability to not be great at something at the beginning. And so, even at Dartmouth or even school, I tend to get maybe a C or a B or a B minus or something to start. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't particularly do well, but by the end I was getting an A because I was very open to learning how to learn and watching what was happening, figuring out what the professor wanted. So I've given myself the freedom and the ability to not really know what I'm doing at the beginning. And I think for overachievers, that's really, really important. People who are used to succeeding in the world, to let themselves not know. Like writing this new young adult novel. I mean, writing a novel, I'm not suited to that particularly. Emotions, give me a break, right? So I've been teaching myself how to do that now for probably 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I'm getting to the point where I can actually probably do it successfully. We'll see. But the wonderful thing about this country and this planet is that there is so much free instruction out there. The master courses, right? I'm sure you know those. Well, I've taken writing courses in a sense. I've been there with David Mamet, James Patterson, Aaron Sorkin. These are all their professors, so I kind of hang out with them, figuratively, and so they're my teachers. So if you can use your imagination with the things you're reading or the things you're experiencing, you can have these people be your teachers and learn an incredible amount. Yeah, definitely. So I have heard of master courses, but I haven't taken any. But so I take it you would highly recommend master courses.
Master class, but also the
classes. Yeah,
it's amazing how much how much wonderful, from world-class experts are there to instruct you on pretty much anything you want to learn. Yeah. My son is a real Renaissance kid, and he just got his pilot's license. But anytime he wants to learn anything, he just goes online, does it, and he knitted everybody a sweater for Christmas. I mean, a scarf. He did that for everybody. I mean, just because he went online and learned how to do it. So, in the history of the planet, we have never had more better teachers or access to teachers than ever before, and that's an incredible opportunity for all of us.
Yeah, definitely. Well, awesome. Thank you, Bryan, again for taking time to chat with me. I really appreciate it.
This was fun.
Oh, good. Thank you. If the listeners would like to see more about your work and potentially purchase your books, where is the best place they can do that or get a hold of you?
Yeah. Well, growth-engine.com is our website. I guess I'll share my telephone number.
You don't have to if you don't want to. But
well,
you're more than welcome to if you want.
Yeah, I mean, people can call me. I guess it's 203. It's in Connecticut. 203-857-4494. Probably the easiest thing is to reach out on LinkedIn. Bryan Mattimore, or send me an email, bmattimore@growth-engine.com. I'm happy to talk to folks about things they're up to, and I do think if they read some of the books, they'll get a lot of what I could share just through the reading, and I think it'd be helpful.
Perfect. All right, I will put those links in the show notes
so
people can connect with you on LinkedIn and send you emails. So that sounds good. Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much, Bryan. I really appreciate it.
This was great. It was fun, and I think I learned a lot about myself in the process. So thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Advance Your Art podcast. If you like this episode, please go into iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. And while you're there, hit the subscribe button so that every single time I release a new episode, it will go directly to you without even thinking about it. If you're interested in hearing older episodes, please go to advanceyourart.com where you can find the catalog of everything I've done so far, as well as contact information and projects I'm working on. Thank you again, and have a great day.